The old man's truck sat crooked in his driveway, rust blooming across the wheel wells like a slow-spreading bruise, and the man who lived 3 doors down stood on the sidewalk with his arms crossed and said, "That thing belongs in a junkyard, not a neighborhood like this." A woman walking her dog slowed just enough to pull out her phone, angling it low at her hip, capturing the paint flaking off the tailgate and the duct tape holding the side mirror together. The narrator let the moment breathe before saying, low and certain, that before the month was out, that truck would be the reason half this street had to eat their words in public. Somewhere off camera, a voice cut through, flat and disbelieving. "Wait, that thing? Y'all better not be playing with me right now." Otis Reeves was 78 years old, and the truck had been his since 1987, the same year he was quietly passed over for a promotion at the transmission plant, despite holding 2 patents with his name buried in the fine print under someone else's. He kept the truck's title in a cigar box in the hall closet, next to a black and white photo of himself in factory coveralls standing beside the very first prototype he'd helped hand-build off the line, an origin the neighborhood knew nothing about. His granddaughter Danielle visited most Sundays, and it was her voice he heard clearest when the world got loud, the anchor that kept him steady. Cedar Grove Estates had a homeowners association with strict aesthetic bylaws, and Bradford Voss, 3 doors down, had appointed himself its unofficial enforcer. Bradford's first move was procedural, an official-looking letter taped to Otis's door citing a violation for unsightly vehicles decreasing neighborhood valuation, though no other truck on the block had ever received one. His second move was louder. At the next HOA meeting, in front of 30 neighbors, he held up a photo of the truck and said, "This is exactly the kind of thing that happens when people don't understand the standards we're trying to maintain here." And a few people laughed, the kind of laugh that pretends it isn't cruel. Otis sat in the back row with his cap in his lap and said nothing. His third move was physical. Someone left an anonymous note under the truck's wiper reading, "Sell it or tow it," and Danielle found Otis outside at dawn, quietly wiping the words off the glass before anyone else could see them. The reactor voice broke in here, sharp and disbelieving. "Hold up, they left a note? On an old man's truck?" I need everybody watching this to remember that part. Bradford's fourth move crossed a line even some of his allies flinched at. He had the truck reported to code enforcement as a fire hazard, forcing Otis to stand in his own driveway, while an officer walked around his property with a clipboard, neighbors watching from behind curtains, nobody stepping outside to stand with him. The reversal came from a place nobody expected. Cedar Grove's HOA had recently partnered with a regional auction house for a charity car show, and the show's lead appraiser, a sharp-eyed woman named Constance Ihejerica, walked the block 3 weeks before the event, clipboard in hand, cataloging entries. She stopped cold at Otis's driveway, crouched by the front fender, and ran her thumb along a stamped chassis number hidden beneath the rust. "Sir," she said, "do you know what you're sitting on?" The engine block matched factory records for a hand-built prototype line discontinued in 1988, one of only 6 ever assembled, and the paperwork in Otis's cigar box, patent filings included, proved he hadn't just driven the truck for 37 years. He had built it. Word moved through Cedar Grove faster than any HOA newsletter ever had, and by the following weekend a collector's outlet had confirmed the truck's value at just over $400,000. Bradford was standing in his own driveway when Constance's assistant taped a bidder notice to a folding sign at the curb, and his face went the color of old paper. At the charity auction itself, held right there on the block with folding chairs and a rented podium, Constance read the truck's provenance aloud to the crowd, then played, from her tablet, a clip Danielle had quietly submitted. Security footage from the code enforcement visit, time-stamped, showing Bradford telling the officer, off mic but not off camera, "Just get it out of here, I don't care how." The crowd went silent in the particular way crowds go silent when they realize they laughed at the wrong thing weeks earlier. The HOA board, mortified, required Bradford to apologize publicly before the bidding continued, and what came out of him was thin and grudging. I'm sorry if I made things difficult." Otis looked at him for a long moment and said only, "You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't know who I was." Here the reactor voice returned, quieter this time, almost stunned. "You just didn't know who I was. I felt that in my chest, not gonna lie." Bradford was removed from his HOA position within the month, the board citing conduct unbecoming a community officer, and the anonymous note, traced through a shared home printer, ended his run for city council before it began. Otis didn't keep the auction money. He redirected the bulk of it into a scholarship fund at the very plant that once buried his name under someone else's patent, seeding tuition for young engineers who look like he did in that photograph in the cigar box. A year later, the truck sat gleaming and restored behind glass in a regional transportation museum, a small plaque naming Otis Reeves as its builder, and Danielle brought her own daughter to see it, letting the little girl press her palm flat against the case. The reactor voice closed things out, warm and direct. Now look, this story's fiction. I made it up, but you already know it's true somewhere. Don't even lie to yourself. So tell me in the comments, who's the Otis in your life that nobody gave their flowers to? Like this video, share it with somebody who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because we're not done telling these stories.